Welcome back, everyone. I'm truly happy you're here. Today I want to share a story, one that still stings a bit. My name is Hamiyun, and this is something personal that happened to me. Picture this. Working overtime, cutting back on your own needs, dipping into your savings, all to make someone you care about feel special. Only for that same person to treat you like you meant nothing, and do it right in front of a crowd. But before we reach that moment, I need to take you back. Because now, looking back, the signs were always there. I just didn't want to see them. I met Adriana at a formal business networking event. She walked in with elegance, well-dressed, composed, and graceful. I assumed she came from a wealthy background. Old money, perhaps. But that first impression didn't last long. She was stunning, hard to ignore. So, I introduced myself. We talked, and something just clicked between us. What began as a professional connection slowly turned into something deeper. We didn't rush into dating. A few months passed before we made it official. That's when the polished surface started to show cracks. Adriana began to open up. Turns out, her family wasn't wealthy anymore. They were immigrants who had once lived comfortably, until a financial crisis turned their world upside down. Her father had been a sharp investor, a businessman. But when the market crashed, their fortune vanished. Almost overnight, they were overwhelmed with debt. Adriana was working as a marketing executive at an agency. With her father still struggling to recover, the responsibility of supporting the family fell on her shoulders. She paid bills, supported her parents, and managed unexpected costs. I didn't judge her for that. Life is unpredictable, and I admired how strong she was. How fiercely she stood by her family. As for me, I worked as a logistics manager. I lived in a modest apartment, drove a reliable car, and usually cooked instead of eating out. But I had a plan. I was saving up to launch a startup, something I truly believed in. I was working toward a better future. But that's where things began to change. Adriana had expensive tastes. Designer brands, fine dining, weekend getaways, exclusive events. First, I didn't mind. Everyone has their preferences, right? But gradually, her attitude toward me shifted. She'd make little jokes, at least that's what she called them. She'd correct me in front of her friends, roll her eyes when I talked about my startup. "Let's talk about something real," she'd say with a smirk. Still, I brushed it off. That's just Adriana, I told myself. I convinced myself she'd understand eventually. That once things got serious, she'd see the value in what I was building. I didn't realize I was teaching her to overlook me, one ignored insult at a time. Despite the warning signs, I kept going. I was in love. And a few months before our 2-year anniversary, I proposed. She said yes. We started planning a future together. And I meant every word of that commitment. I got involved in every part of her life. When money was tight, I stepped in. Without hesitation or questions. She was stressed about bills. I quietly covered them. Her parents needed help. I made sure they got it. When she lost a consulting job and felt like her world was falling apart, I offered her a loan, not as a transaction but as an act of love, an investment in our future. Her parents liked me. They supported our relationship. I wasn't keeping score. I didn't care who gave more. I just wanted to see her succeed. And deep down, I believed she wanted the same for me. As we planned our wedding, her birthday was approaching. Money was tight for her, so I stepped in again. Not because she asked, but because it felt right. She was my fiancée, that meant something. I wanted her to feel loved, appreciated, celebrated. This birthday was my way of saying, "I've got you." She handled the planning. She chose a rooftop lounge downtown, stylish and stunning with a skyline view. She made the guest list, colleagues, influencers, even family. She hired a boutique caterer, artisanal appetizers and fancy desserts. It was extravagant, lavish, completely her. And I paid for almost all of it. I didn't argue, I just asked for the expenses and quietly took care of the deposits. By the time it was all added up, I had covered more than half. Stretched me thin. I dipped into the savings I'd set aside for my startup. But I didn't hesitate. I was proud to do it. proud to support the woman I believed I'd spend my life with. The night of the party, I wanted it to feel magical, for her. I rented a sleek black car so she could arrive in style. She stepped out in a shimmering dress that caught every light. And I thought, this is her night. I wore my best suit, ready to stand beside her. At the venue, I didn't crowd her. I stayed nearby, held her purse when needed, smiled at her guests, and nodded politely. It was her moment, and I wanted her to shine. Then I heard it. She was chatting with some coworkers when one of them looked at me and asked, "Who's that gentleman? He seems to be following you around." Adriana laughed, and loud enough for everyone to hear, said, "Oh, him. That's just my driver." They laughed, and I froze. I thought I had misheard her. But then I saw her face. That smirk. And the way she turned back to her conversation without even a glance. That's when it hit me. She had humiliated me on purpose. I waited for a quiet moment to pull her aside. When I asked why she said that, she looked at me like I was the problem. "You should be grateful I even let you in," she snapped. "Look at the people here. You don't exactly fit in." That sentence broke something in me. I nodded slowly. Then, without another word, I grabbed my jacket, turned and walked out. There were still outstanding payments, bills I had agreed to cover for the decorator and caterer. But after what she did, no chance. I didn't reach out. I took a few days to sit with everything, replaying all the moments I let slide. All the red flags I had painted over. The little jabs I laughed off. The way she constantly looked down on me. And I asked myself, why did I let it get that far? Why did I confuse love with accepting disrespect? 2 days after the party, my phone lit up, "Adriana." I stared at the screen. But I didn't answer. She left a voicemail, saying she needed the rest of the money for the party expenses. I didn't respond. I just blocked her number. The next day, she tried again from a new number. I answered, thinking it might be someone else. The moment I heard her voice, I hung up and blocked that one too. That was the moment I drew the line. On the 4th day, she showed up at my apartment. I looked through the peephole. She was standing there, knocking. But I didn't open the door. She had already said everything that mattered. When she called me her driver, and told me I should be grateful just to be there. After a few minutes, she gave up and walked away. I watched her leave, quietly. I said nothing. 2 weeks passed. I hadn't spoken to her. I kept the numbers blocked, ignored every message. Then, on a quiet Saturday afternoon, I heard a knock. I assumed it was a delivery or maybe a neighbor. But when I opened the door, it was her parents. They looked uncomfortable. Her mother's voice was gentle. "Paul, we're so sorry to bother you like this." No small talk, they got straight to the point. Adriana had told them I left without explanation. But they didn't believe her. A friend of hers had reached out to them privately. Told them the truth. Told them how she called me her driver. They were ashamed. You could see it in their eyes. Her father met my gaze and said, "We didn't raise her to treat people like that." He said they had seen her changing, becoming distant, arrogant. "She's lost herself," her mother added. "She's trying so hard to fit into that world. She forgot how to treat the people who actually care." Then they asked me gently to reconsider. Not to take her back, but just to talk to her. "Maybe hearing from you," her father said, "could bring her back to reality." I listened, truly listened. And I appreciated their honesty. It couldn't have been easy to come to my door after what their daughter had done. I respected them for that. But my response was calm and clear. "I'm sorry," I said. "Adriana is in my past." I didn't carry hate in my heart. I had simply made peace with what happened. And I had no plans to go back. They nodded quietly. No surprise, just understanding. They thanked me for my time, apologized again, and left. I stood there a while after they walked away, watching the street, letting the silence settle. By the time her birthday was a distant memory, I got another call, this time again from her parents. The moment I answered, I could hear it in her father's voice. Something was wrong. He said Adriana had gotten herself into serious financial trouble. Then came the request. Just help her settle this, he said. We'll handle the rest. I let him finish. Then I replied, slowly and firmly. She's no longer my responsibility. There was a pause. He hadn't expected how calm I was. But I meant every word. After that, the line went silent. Looking back now, I only regret one thing. How long it took me to realize that love without respect is just a slow form of self-destruction. I will never again allow myself to be treated as less than I am. And before I end this, I want to leave you with a few lessons, ones I had to learn the hard way. First, never ignore the subtle signs. Disrespect doesn't always scream. It whispers. Inside comments, fake laughter, subtle put-downs disguised as jokes. Pay attention. Sometimes people show you exactly how they feel, just not the way you hoped. Second, don't stretch yourself thin trying to prove you're worthy of love. Real love doesn't ask you to prove anything. It shows up, respects you, and stands beside you. The more I gave, the more she took. And when I needed her to stand with me, she walked away. Third, silence can be louder than shouting. Walking away, quietly without drama, is sometimes the most powerful thing you can do. It says, you don't get to treat me like this. Not out of spite, but out of self-respect. And finally, if someone needs to shrink you in order to shine, they are not your partner. That's not love. That's insecurity wrapped in charm. So if you're listening to this and you're in something that feels off, where you constantly shrink yourself just to feel loved, go back. Ask yourself, are they proud of who you are? Or just proud of what you give them? Thank you for listening to my story. Means a lot. Now I'll leave you with one final question. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Let me know in the comments. I'll be reading.